Okay. We are live, we are recording, we are ready to go. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good day so far on this Thursday. I keep getting my days mixed up this week. Super excited to be here, happy to have everyone here, and even more excited to have Miss Christy Campbell with us today. So for those of you who don't know her, she does have an incredible background of coaching, entrepreneurship. She's a very active mom. Navy veteran, as well as really driving a huge community and building off of connection for a lot of people and impacting all of their lives. So Christy, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for taking your time out of your day with us.
Thank you. I'm so pumped to be here.
Yes, we're happy to have you. So just to kind of keep things light, just to start, how do you know Nick? How did he get that luxury of meeting you?
I met Larissa and Nick through Nutrition Coaching Institute, where we are all a part of. I was speaking at an event that they attended, and we've been connected through there through, learning to be the best coaches that we can be and help people the best we can. So we know each other through that universe.
Very good. Okay. So what kind of led you into coaching world? How did you get there?
Well, I found coaching, it really found me. My I wouldn't have started coaching had a coach not really impacted my life, but ultimately I grew up sort of in that 80s, 90s time frame of eating all the processed junk. Like I just thought that, Gushers and Nutty Buddy bars and Hamburger Helper, like those were my foods. I would eat like multiple bowls of cereal every day. And that was just what I ate. And I didn't really struggle with my weight growing up. I was a pretty active kid. I played soccer year round. But during my time in the Navy, I had one knee like I had a knee issue that they misdiagnosed. They did one big reconstruction knee surgery that turned into 10 knee surgeries. And so they just kept kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And you fast forward a couple of years, and I had my first two children, and I found myself 40 to 50 pounds overweight, completely stuck. I didn't think I could exercise anymore because my knee. I had a really poor relationship with food, and I had kind of thought that, healthy food was like spray butter and, frozen meals that you would get from the grocery store that were like diet meals. And then regular food was like Papa John's pizza and Dr. Pepper and, Stouffer's macaroni and cheese. And I couldn't figure it out. And when I was so stuck, I just felt like I was happy as a mom. I was happy as a professional. I felt like in some places of my life, I was successful, but in this one thing, in my weight and how I felt in my skin, I just didn't feel like me. It was like that piece of me was sort of lost. And I would get dressed for the day and I would put on clothes that I felt like looked nice, but nothing that I felt good or confident in. And I kind of had given up on the idea that I could feel good. I was like, well, maybe I'm just genetically supposed to be fat, or maybe this is what mom life is. You just like let yourself go and you gain weight, and it just is this never ending cycle. Or maybe I got a bad deal, right? Like all those knee surgeries, bad deal for me. Like, I guess I can't exercise and I guess I'm just going to be stuck. And I started looking for solutions because even though I was unhappy and sort of feeling like there was no way out, I didn't like being the person that hid in pictures. I felt like whenever I was with my girlfriends, I would get in the back of the picture and hide, and I would take pictures with my kids and like not want to be in it. Or I would put clothes on like shorts and I would apologize for my legs. I would be like, I'm sorry, how I look in this, or I wouldn't even get in the pool at all. I would just stay in my cover up. And I started looking for solutions, and everything I was finding was, I did Weight Watchers a bunch of times. I did the shake challenges. I did, I bought Slim Fast shakes. I bought like this whole supplement crazy stack with Brazilian butt lift, off of an infomercial. I put an elliptical machine in my room, and I just was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why don't I have motivation? Why don't I have the discipline to do this? Like, why do some of my friends seem to have it figured out and not me? And I just couldn't figure it out. And I would lose and gain the same 5 to 10 pounds over and over again. And it wasn't until, it was probably like the least easy time, of my life in terms of the age of my kids. They were 2 and 4. and I had just moved home to like live in my high school bedroom. And my kid's dad was deployed at the time. And I remember thinking, okay, now is the time. Like, I'm going to lose this weight. And I joined the gym with the same exact mindset of like, what's the thing that's going to work for me? Like, they better have the right childcare. They better have the right class times. Like, this better not be too hard for my knee. Like, I had every reason why I probably couldn't do it, but I still joined the gym thinking, this is going to be the time. And I would go to step aerobics class or whatever, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, is more cardio. So I'd go to cardio class, and then I would go straight to the bathroom and get on the scale and be like, did it work? And funny enough, I ran into this guy, and he was a coach, and he wasn't like some kind of famous Instagram influencer or something like that. He was just a regular personal trainer coach. And he invited me to his class in the park. And I didn't want to go, first off, because the class was called Pain in the Park. I was like,
what a name.
That's the stupidest name I've ever heard. You better rename it if you want me to come. But I went and I was dressed all in black because I didn't want anybody to see my body. And I had my knee brace on, and like, I went to this class, and he was making us do like all the worst things, like bear crawl where people can like see your butt, and burpees and everything that I couldn't do. I couldn't do one push-up at the time. And I just felt like I couldn't wait till it was over. Like, get me out of here. And I remember this coach, he walked by me and he looked at me and he goes, I see an athlete in there. And it was like he could see something that I wanted back so desperately. And somehow he saw that in me. He saw that potential. And in that moment, he gave me back hope. And I just kept going to his class. And it was funny because he created a setting through really good coaching and a community that I could be a part of, and like a no BS approach. I mean, it wasn't like he did something fancy. He taught me the basics of nutrition, of exercise, of lifting, of the things that just nobody had told me before. He told me to stop eating out so much and stop drinking so much alcohol, and to like not eat so much sugar, and to make sure I was eating enough food. Like, nobody had ever told me that before. And he didn't treat me like a baby. He coached me, and he changed my life. I mean, that year, yeah, I lost 40 pounds, or I looked different. My clothes fit better, all that stuff. But he gave me that. He gave me back that piece of me that was missing. And so he changed my life in a way that made me light on fire for doing that for others. And so I got certified as a trainer and a coach, and I just decided it didn't matter what my degrees were in or my background in the Navy. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm coaching people, because if I can give this back to people, that's what I want to do. So I spent a number of years as a personal trainer and coaching my own class in the park. And then I spent a number of years in the CrossFit space and weightlifting. And now I'm coaching primarily online in Fit Me and helping people make that lifestyle change. So that's a long answer to your how did I become a coach
Wonderful. That's a wonderful answer.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that you mentioned that one little nugget of a comment that trainer gave you so much hope, because I think most people get so fixated on the negative side of that. If someone makes a negative comment or what they perceive to be a negative comment, and that's what they latch onto. And so I think people forget how impactful other people's words can be. And so I love that you were able to take that and run with it, and that such a small little moment of your life really set you forward. I think that's incredible. Something else I want to touch on too. So you mentioned obviously postpartum and things, a lot changing and kind of like hiding your body, feeling apologetic for your body. And when you were younger, that classic diet of like hamburger helper or Twinkies or whatever it may be, I think that was common for a lot of people. Did you recognize any sort of relationship with food growing up, whether positive or negative, did you have any idea what that looked like?
No, I mean, honestly, I thought that I would go to lunch and I would buy 3 Otis Spunkmeyer cookies. You could get 3 for $1, and a bag of popcorn and a chocolate milk. And that was my lunch every day. And I was like, this is good. And I just had no clue. It was like I had missed the memo on how to eat healthy. My mom had struggled with her weight, and she still does. And so I had watched her struggle, in the solution being diets, like Weight Watchers and things. And so I don't think I realized that that was creating that sort of, mindset for me. But when I was, fast forward, me being really stuck, those were the solutions that I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking like, oh, how can I change my lifestyle or start walking or drink more water, or eat more protein or get back to basics. I didn't have a clue. Honestly, I was more looking for like, how do I take the things that I was already eating and just make them like diet versions? So I'd be like, oh, how do I make diet lasagna? Or how do I make like diet, And I had no idea. My boys are 13 and 11 now, but my daughter is 3. And so I've had the experience of going through postpartum, in this season of my life as a coach, and it was very different. I can compare the two and say that, my relationship with food after the first one and trying to like hate my body back to being thin or being small was very different than this time, where I knew I just needed to take care of myself and I needed to move and I needed to eat well, and that my body would eventually, change and adapt to that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of parents kind of get stuck in this mindset of thinking that maybe it's selfish to take time for them and really make time to work on them, whether it's 10 minutes to go on a walk or getting into the gym or making the best choices there. How do you navigate that as a mom of 3,
Mhm.
um, and being able to create that time for you and balance those two sides? Because you have mom Christy and you have Christy. So how do you mesh those together and being able to make time for you and feel confident doing it and confident showing up for the kids?
I think the first thing is to just completely dismiss the idea that there's going to be some easier season down the road. That's just not true. We can tell ourselves that when our kids are little, like the next season's going to be easier, or when they're like in elementary school, oh, the next season's going to be less busy, or oh, it's fall and so maybe winter is going to be less busy, or summer. First, we have to just like completely forget that mindset. And just say that if you aren't taking care of yourself, you're probably not showing up for your people the way that you could. Maybe your temper is shorter. Maybe because you're having those like negative feelings about yourself and how you feel in your clothes, like you just aren't present in moments that you want to be with your family. Maybe it's food. And instead of just enjoying treats sometimes and eating well, most of the times you're constantly worried about it. And so you're not able to, focus on your family the way you want to show up. And so for me, prioritizing taking care of myself, even if it doesn't look perfect,
Mm-hmm.
um, is what is essential in order for me to like be who I want to be in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it really also requires not just saying like, I'm not waiting for the perfect time, but I'm willing to do this even if it doesn't look perfect. And so right now I'm doing jujitsu. So I go to jujitsu 2 to 3 times a week, and it's a 90-minute class. It starts at 6 o'clock. It ends at 7:30. And I like to go 3 times a week, but
Mm-hmm.
both of my boys are in tackle football, and I have to take them to 2 different places, 2 different sides of town, 4 nights out of the week. And so in order for me to go to jujitsu, one night I have to get a babysitter in order to go, and I have to facilitate rides for them. And then the other night, I actually only get to go to half of class. So I show up, I do half of class, and I'm literally that person that's like, bye, like in the middle of class. And they're like, where are you going? I'm like, I gotta get my kids. And I'm like, something's better than nothing
Mm-hmm.
today. And that's kind of how I approach it, is like, we're not going to have a perfect season. That's never going to happen. I need to take care of myself so I can show up in my life the way I want to. And it's not going to look perfect every day. We're going to have to get scrappy and prioritize it, like getting a babysitter. And then other times we're just going to have to say like 45 minutes is better than nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that stops a lot of people is they just opt out entirely. And whether kids or not, I've found that a lot of people carry busy as a character trait. Nowadays,
Mhm.
you ask someone, "How are you?" and they say, "Oh, I'm so busy," as if it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
So again, whether a mom, a dad, kids or not, how would you recommend someone to even start rewriting that narrative of using busy as an excuse and knowing how to start even in your busy season? What would be that first step for someone who has that as that character trait right now?
I like to think about it in terms of what is most effective towards what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think like when we're saying, well, I'm so busy, I want to wait until I can go all in, that'll be better. I'll wait till January. I can go all in. I can make sure I'm successful then. I like to be able to do it well. I think these are all things we tell ourselves. We're like, I'm too busy to fit that in and commit. I have a different approach around consistency, and it's kind of like this little mental game that I think about, but ultimately it gets you to what you want. So the way that I think of it is busy. So imagine there's like this big hill, right? And we've got two hills and two people, and they've got stacks of bricks, like giant mountains of bricks, and they've got to take those bricks up and over the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the metaphor for creating this like healthy lifestyle, right? Well, both of those people are busy. Well, the person on this top hill, she wants to do the all in. She wants to wait till January. She wants to wait till she can commit fully. And she wants to be 10 out of 10. Like 10 out of 10 bricks is how many she wants to move. And so she commits to going all in. Normally people who are like all in doing those kind of approaches, it's like 7, 10, 14 days maybe. And then life happens and then you stop. And then you wait because you're busy again. You can't do it. And then you recommit a couple of times a year. So maybe you recommit 3 times a year and you go all in. At the end of the year, that person has moved approximately like 270 bricks with that math. Okay. So she did the thing that we all love, which is like the sexy, like, let me go all in.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody gets all hype about it. Let me commit to no sugar, no anything, no nothing, for the next whatever. Doing 2 workouts a day, like that crazy style of like, my life is, this is the perfect timing. And she moves 270 bricks. Well, so this other person, she's not doing that. She's busy too, but she understands that like consistency matters more than anything. And so some days it looks like a 10 brick day. She has like a really great day. Other days it's like a 2 brick day. Some days it's 4, some days she eats pretty well and then she gets like a half workout in. Some days it's like, she can do more. And she knows that as long as she's moving bricks up and over that hill and she's doing the consistency, then she's making progress. Mm-hmm. So that girl, the one who's doing like the not sexy approach, the one that nobody's paying attention to, let's say she averages 6 a day, which is a D average, like a 60% in school, like a D. She's moving 2,700 bricks over the course of a year. Or I think it's 3,100 bricks. If she goes 6 a day for the whole year, it's 3,000 bricks that she's moved by just focusing on consistency, even if she's busy. So like knowing like I can put 2 bricks over that hill today, or I can move 6 over, that's the mindset that will actually translate into better results. And so busy isn't an excuse anymore when you know that that's true, because all you need to do is show up with what you can for that day. You just need to show up and do your best for that day and then keep going. And then surround yourself with people who understand that that's the strategy. Because, at the end of the day, sometimes we get in our own way. We start to forget that we moved any bricks. We're like, maybe we have a couple 2 brick days in a row and we're like, I'm not doing anything. This is not working. Like, I am terrible. Like, I'm screwing this up all the time. And I'm watching these people go 10 for 10 every day. They're doing whatever the thing is. And I haven't moved any bricks, and you forget. So when you're surrounded by a community, or if you have a coach who can be like, hey, like, look over there, like, don't forget, like, you've already moved hundreds of bricks. Yeah. Like, just keep going. Like, just pick up 1 more today. And you have that support. Well, then again, busy's not a thing anymore. You just keep going. And so whenever I get discouraged with myself, I just kind of remember that. And I'm just like, today's a 2 brick day, go, oh, you can do more today. Like, make today an 8 brick day. And that's really how you create those better results.
So for the person who is all in a couple times a year, just full send, super strict, just absolutely getting after it, where would you direct them to start deciding on what pieces or piece to implement every day that will actually move them a little bit forward to start building 1 brick a day? Rather
than like
going
they
all
keep
in.
quitting? Like, you mean if somebody does keep quitting?
Yeah, the person that says that, like, hey, Christy, tomorrow I'm changing everything about my diet. I'm going super strict, paleo, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Rather that, how would you guide me into just choosing one thing that I could do really well and starting to reverse that mindset a little bit.
I think the first question I would ask is like, how has that worked for you in the
Mm-hmm.
past? And so that way you could kind of think about the other times that you've tried that and then what happens after.
Mm-hmm.
Because in theory, it sounds great. It sounds like that's the way to go. I mean, honestly, a lot of the language around motivation and around being disciplined is like, just flip that switch and go. But in real life is going to happen. So that's what I would ask you first is like, what are the things in your life that have impacted your progress before or have derailed you? And
Mm-hmm.
so if those things are not going away, right? Like if it's your job, if it's your kids, if it's your actual life, then we actually have to have a strategy that's going to work in your real life. And so my advice would be, if it hasn't worked for you before, let's try something new. And instead, let's pick the things that are going to move the needle and commit to those. We don't have to commit to perfect. We just need to commit to consistent and keep going. So that would be sort of like the mindset shift that I would start with. But then do you mean like actual practical changes, what they would be?
Um, yeah, I guess just like picking the one little thing that would actually start making that progress on a week to week. I guess deciding what action step would be first.
I personally, even though I've been coaching for 9 years now, full time, I I personally truly rely on coaches in my life to help me with that, to be honest. Like I utilize personal coaching and accountability. I pay somebody money to help me
Mm-hmm.
choose my action for the week and what I'm going to focus on and be accountable for. And that is a strategy. I always tell people that a lot of times in fitness and nutrition, we like to think of this as like a character trait. Like I'm not motivated, I'm not disciplined, I'm not athletic, I'm not fit. And we apply these labels to ourselves when really creating like that fit and healthy lifestyle is a lot more about skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those skill sets is for asking and finding accountability structures. And so for me, that having a coach has been instrumental in helping me pick what it is that I'm focused on each week. Cause it's always going to be, I could be like, okay, hey, I want you to focus on movement, but it's really like the context of your life. What's happening in your life this week? And then choosing based off
Mm-hmm.
of that. So it's not just like randomly picking. It's really, what is the priority for the week? What do you need to do to take care of yourself? And how do you need to show up for your life, whether that's your work, your family, whatever it is. Um, and then how do you create that balance? And then know that next week we're going to build on it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think something else that you've kind of touched on in terms of kind of before you started your journey, again, that postpartum, like feeling apologetic or maybe fearful that maybe not having enough time, or even that self-doubt and fear of, can I actually do this? Even if I do commit and I do want it, can I do it? How do you move through those feelings to get past that limiting factor to actually just go for it?
You know, when I had that transformation that I talked about at the beginning of this, it wasn't even, I don't even know if it was postpartum anymore. Like my baby weight had become my body weight. Like that was 2.5 years postpartum. That was my new body.
Yeah.
And at that time, I actually had no faith at all that I would be able to do it. And so the solution at that season of my life was taking action. It was like one doable step at a time. Even though I didn't know it, I just knew that like if I showed up to class, that was better than not. Or if I, made one healthy choice, that was better than not. So action was sort of the solution for that negative headspace.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my daughter, Georgia, 3.5 years ago, you would think that with all of the years of coaching and feeling fit and healthy and all of that stuff, that those doubts wouldn't be there. But if I'm 100% honest, after I had her, I gained 40 pounds again. Like it wasn't like, it turns out that's just my body gains when I'm pregnant. I ate really well. I exercised, I did CrossFit the whole pregnancy. I still gained 40 pounds. So after I had her and I was truly in that postpartum season, you'd think I wouldn't have any doubt at all. Like, oh, I'm just going to go right back to where I was, coach body, like, and that's just not true. There were still pieces of me that were afraid that I wouldn't get back there. And there was that negative voice telling me that, like, what if you just stay like this? What if nobody trusts you anymore as a coach because you've gained this weight? And what if your baby weight becomes your body weight again? And I had all of those same thoughts. They were maybe quieter, because I had done the work and I had reason to have confidence in myself, but they were still there. And the solution, though, was the same. It was action.
Yeah.
Instead of dwelling on those thoughts, it was, okay, like, what am I going to do today? Like, one step at a time. There's no way to fast forward to that destination and just snap your fingers and get there. You have to take those steps, and there's nobody, not a coach, not me, not any of you all that's going to promise it to you. Like, that's going to be like, yes, like magic. It is 100% you showing up for yourself and deciding that you're going to do it, but not letting that voice determine what you do today. And so whenever I would hear that voice, I would just kind of squash it and just be like, all right, you're going to show up today. Like, this is what you're going to do. And through that, and again, with confidence of having done it before, yes, like, I got to feel that transformation again in this other season. But yeah, I wish there was some like magic, switch you can flip to make doubts go away. It's just generally not the case.
I think anyone would wish for that, especially those with that darker internal voice that hasn't quite gotten to that mental shift yet. Was there anything in particular that worked for you in terms of kind of dimming that negativity versus just you saying you squashed it? Did writing help, talking about it help, maybe yelling positive things louder? Like, what worked for you the most in kind of turning off that negative side?
I think one thing is like owning my environment in my frame. So for example, in that season, I unfollowed like half of the accounts I was following on Instagram. They were not helpful for me. Like seeing other women, magically go 6 weeks postpartum and have 6-pack abs and be all the way back to themselves, that was making it worse, not better. So I unfollowed everything that had to do with like fit pregnancy. I unfollowed a lot of other accounts that sort of were, if it was making me feel bad, I unfollowed it. And that was intentional to help create that frame. And then I really leaned into some of the support structures, because we're going to have seasons in our life, again, like, even coaches, we have seasons in our life where we need more support and structure. And I knew that that was a season for me where I was going to be rebuilding my strength. I was going to be losing weight. I was going to be trying to put in new habits in place with a new baby, and my life had shifted, and running a business and coaching. And so I just knew I needed some support. And so I leaned into that, both in like a community setting and with coaching and with my friends. I was just honest about where I was at. And I think that that was really helpful. And then I didn't have to fight that voice on my own.
Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle too with even asking for support. Kind of really owning that decision of, hey, this is what I want to do. And not only that, I need to do this for me. And we struggle with that, whether it's asking for support from a spouse or a friend or a parent. How would you recommend approaching that conversation with someone when you do need that additional support?
Well, I think you have to first really understand what you're asking for. That sounds funny, but like, if you're like, will you support me in getting healthy? Like, that's not really asking for support. It kind of is, but get specific. So if you're talking to your partner or your spouse or whatever, and you're like, I'm trying to get back in the routine of going to the gym. Like, will you support me in doing X so that I can go? Like, I really want to be able to go at these times, and I need this to be able to make that happen. And so then you're asking very specifically for support. I think that's incredibly helpful, because again, then it allows someone to actually do that for you. And you're not going to feel like, oh, they didn't do it. So they didn't support my healthy lifestyle commitment. So, but we never asked for anything specific. So asking for something specific. I also think turning towards people who understand your goals. So again, like I have a lot of friends who do some nonsense with their diet and
Yeah,
nutrition, and I still love them, but I don't ask them for advice.
totally.
So I mean, think about who you're asking for advice and support too, because people mean well, but just because they told you it's time to try, keto fasting, like paleo Whole30 plan, all mixed together in the perfect pill, doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah. No, I actually like that because that's very relative to as coaches how we don't necessarily accept the answer of, oh, I want to lose weight. It's not specific. I need more information than that. So knowing what you are asking for and what kind of support you need and how that's actually going to translate into your life, I think is really huge.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And again, sometimes we want to overcomplicate it. We
mm,
want to think that, oh, we need, some super complex thing to actually make progress. But like I talked about at the beginning of the call, like 4 bricks a day is progress. So maybe that just starts with drinking water and going for a walk. Like
mhm.
maybe that starts with eating vegetables at every meal or focusing on protein. Like it doesn't have to be this sort of crazy complex thing. We just think that it does. And so if we can wrap our heads around that too, then when we're asking for support, again, like we might need to create some boundaries. So for example, you might be somebody who like sits at your desk every day during lunch and works. Well, maybe the boundary that you need to put in place is that people know that you get up and you go for a walk at lunchtime,
Yeah.
or that you get up and go eat lunch and then you go for a walk, and create new expectations. And that can be really hard. So that's not like quite the same as saying like, hey, partner, spouse, person, will you support me? But it's in the same context, because essentially you're taking the people around you and you're saying like, I'm going to go for a walk during lunch, I'm not going to be sitting at my desk anymore. And you're creating a new expectation. And that can be scary, I think, if you haven't done it before.
Yeah, I think a lot of people actually have that struggle. And I touched on this a little bit last night talking about holiday season. There's a lot of parties going to be coming up. And I think something that people run into a lot is social pressure, whether the holidays or not, of like, oh, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you eating this? You should be doing this or that. And I think it's that first step of that first conversation of letting someone know the new expectation. Is there anything you would suggest in terms of setting that new expectation or how you would do that to start if you are scared to kind of own up to that?
Mm-hmm. One, so I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I remember going to like birthday parties for my kids when they were little, and there would always be like this gross cake, right? Like kids' birthday parties is always like the nasty grocery store cake
Like
with like,
the shit Lowe's Foods one. Yeah.
yes, and it's got like this much plastic icing on it. And so they always give the kids cake, and then the parents are usually like standing around the kitchen, and then what happens is normally they start cutting and passing. And I think this happens at work too. It's like everybody's going to have a piece of cake, and you're the person, you don't want that cake, you don't even like that cake,
Mhm.
it's gross, you're not even that into it, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to be that person that says like no thanks, because everybody's gonna be like, are you on a diet, or like, why aren't you having cake? And so you get in your head and you're like, I don't want to be that person, I'm not going to rock the boat, I'm just going to eat the stupid cake. And you take the cake and you start eating it, and then 2 people down, someone says no thanks,
Mhm.
and you look at that person, you're like, why couldn't I say no thanks?
Yeah, yeah.
Why do they get to say no thanks? I don't get to say no thanks. Like I just gave in and did it. And then you get more into that. And I think I always think of that because I think, it's okay to say no thank you.
Mhm.
And for many of us that are people pleasers that like to, not rock the boat, that just want to, show up and help people or whatever, we don't like to say no thanks. We want to commit to doing everything that people ask. We want to just go with the flow. If they're like, here, I made you this, like, you eat it. And saying no, thank you, or I appreciate you thinking of me, I'm good. Like, again, it's a skill set. This isn't something wrong with you. This isn't a character trait. It's just something you need to practice. I think Nick was saying this earlier, like
Yeah.
about saying no to cookies, and it's hard at first. but if you practice it, then it becomes much easier. And you
Mhm.
know what? Nobody's going to think anything. And probably people are going to be jealous of you that you actually have the skill set to say no, thank you. And then you know what? When you say yes, it feels really good. So like if you go to a party and they have the dessert and you love it and you're so pumped because it's like the thing and you're like, I'm having that. Like that is my favorite. And you don't have to feel bad. You can just be like,
Yeah.
of course I want that. And people might look at you even in that moment and they're like, I thought you don't eat like that. And you're like, no, no, no. I eat the things that I'm pumped and excited to eat. I just say no thanks to the stuff that I'm not into or that doesn't make my body feel good. And again, that's not being weird. That's like something most people want to create in their life. And so around the holidays, I always suggest that people, one, think about the things that they truly enjoy. Like what are the things that you really are looking forward to? Is it like those special cookies from somebody? Is it like that special dessert? Is it that one meal? Like think about that and enjoy that. Like don't feel guilty. Go ahead and enjoy it. But the other stuff that you're not into, just say no thanks. Like you're going to feel like garbage if you eat sugar for 6 weeks straight. So it's okay to say, I don't feel very good when I eat that. So no thanks. That's kind of like one of my first default settings is like that food doesn't make me feel very good. So most people will leave you alone if you say that. But that's one of
Yeah.
my strategies.
No, I really love that. I talked about that a lot last night, so it's really cool to kind of get some validation there. Um, so in terms of social pressure too, I think a lot of people get comments on their food as well. So what you had just kind of mentioned, like people commenting on uh, the way you do and don't eat. So when you did decide to have that one food and they're like, "Oh, I thought you didn't eat like that." How do you not let that affect you?
Do you mean just like feeling judged?
Feeling judged. I think no matter what, people will have something to say, whether or not you are trying to improve your health or not. So whether you're making choices of making better choices at the restaurant or something like that, people always have to throw out sly little comments. Just navigating that response and still staying true to you and making the choices that align with you and not letting that opinion affect you. How do you not let that sink in and then make that alternate choice?
Uh, One, I think in the short term, if you don't want to engage with that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
then for me, I just focus on why it matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm just going to ignore somebody's comment, it's usually because I'm like, well, if I lived my life just like doing what everybody else, you know, made me feel like I should do, I wouldn't feel very good. I would be back to that place where I was before. I would be 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight, sedentary, unhappy, and feeling confident that I can make my own choices around food and exercise and movement is how I got here. And so I just like reinforce that in my mind. Like, I don't care what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I do care a little bit, I just tell myself I don't care because that doesn't serve me to care. But on the other hand, if this is somebody in your life that you see all the time and it's really impacting you,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that that this is going to be a problem, then you're going to have a conversation around that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to set that boundary. It's 100% okay to tell somebody that you do not want them to comment on your food.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I know that that's easier said than done, but again, if it's somebody who you're going to see a lot, you might need to have that conversation.
No, for sure. I think that's huge. And again, I think it's a lot of things that people run into, whether or not people are being intentionally negative or not. I think it's something that a lot of people run into now. But to kind of bring things full circle.
Let me tell you
So,
one more thing, Jordan, real quick, is that at the end of the day, too, like we are in control of our frame.
mhm,
Like we can't control what other people say. We
mhm.
can't control what other people do. We can't control what other people think of us. And so once we know that, then we can keep our eyes on the prize. And like I truly imagine like having blinders on like a horse
Yeah.
and that the distraction and the nonsense that people are throwing at me, it's irrelevant. And so, because I can't control it. And in fact, if I let them impact what I do, then now they are guiding my life. They're choosing my future. And I don't want that. And so intentionally deciding that, like, even if they don't stop, I guess is my point. You could say, hey, I don't want you to comment my food. I don't want you to comment on my body. Like, I'm trying to make some big healthy lifestyle changes. It's not helpful. So just don't. And they still might do it anyway. You can't control them. You can only control what you choose to do. And so knowing that you might have to put up those blinders and just keep your eyes on the prize and what you're working towards, that might be your strategy.
Yeah, I love that. So as entrepreneur, as a podcast host, as running a team and being an active mom, what have you found to be the most challenging in balancing all of that, if you would even call it a balance?
I feel like intentionally choosing to be present is really hard. And so if I like to juggle and I like to multitask, and multitasking is kind of a made up thing anyway, but to me, that's the challenge. It's the challenge of, okay, I'm here in this moment with you and I just want to be present in that. And I don't want to be looking at what's next, or, oh, I've got to do this thing with my business, or I've got to do this thing with my coaches or my clients, or with them when I'm with my clients and coaches and team, like thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. And so one of the ways that I approach that is I think in the mornings, what is my done for today list? Because if we just have a never ending list of things that we're going to do, we'll just keep adding to it forever and ever and ever. And we'll never feel done. And we'll also never feel present because we'll be constantly fixated on like the next thing, the next thing. And so a lot of times in the morning, I wish I did it every day, but I do it a lot of days. I'll think to myself, like, what is done for today look like in regards to my business, my coaching, my family, my body? What's done for today? When I lay my head down on the pillow tonight, what will I feel good about? That these are the most important priorities in my life that I checked off today. And I try to keep that list like less than 6 or 7 things. It doesn't mean that that's all I'm doing today. It's just, those are the most important things. Those are the done for the day list. And as I move through my day, and again, trying to create balance, all that stuff, balance is kind of like this made up thing in my mind. Like you have to create your own balance. But to me, putting some intention behind your day. So like, if maybe on my done for today list, it is, help my kid with his homework, send out this email, connect with this person, complete this project, do a 45-minute walk. If I can get those things done, everything else is bonus points, And so that really helps me to show up intentionally in my life and then not just be reaction, constantly trying to react and trying to feel like I'm behind and juggling. And so if you've never tried that strategy, if you're listening and you're like, I'm never, ever done, try to create a done for today list. But here's the kicker. You don't get to add to it. So like at 2:00 in the afternoon, you don't get to add to the list. You need to do the priorities that you set that day, for your intention. And then tomorrow set a new list. So anyways, that helps me. I don't know if that answers your question, but there's no like magical balance.
No, that's why I prefaced it that way, is because I do think people have this idea of everything's going to be perfectly balanced, perfectly routine. Nothing's going to pop up in my day. And if it doesn't fall under that routine, then I've messed up. I can't function. And so I think people get caught up in that. I mean, I love certain things to have routine in my day, but knowing how to navigate when certain things take a little bit more priority, or maybe your kids need your attention at that point during the day, and then in the afternoon you can focus on your business. I just think people get lost in thinking that everything has to be perfectly balanced all the time.
It probably won't be.
Yeah.
And if you're watching some people on Instagram with their like weird morning routines and they're like, Zen house and it's probably just fake. And
Yeah.
so you have to create ultimately like building a fulfilled life is less about balance and more about understanding your values and your priorities.
Mhm.
What is it that really matters to you? And then organizing your life accordingly. And so the reason that we feel unfulfilled isn't because we're not productive. Most of the people that I know are busy, busy all day long.
Mhm.
It actually doesn't have anything to do with that. It's that we're spending our time and energy on things that don't matter. We're wasting time scrolling. We're worried about other people's nonsense. We're putting out fires at work that we didn't want to put out. We're missing time that we should spend with the people that we care about. And we function like that for days, weeks, months, years. And all of a sudden we're like, I'm not fulfilled. This isn't the life that I want. And that feeling is because we've not considered what's important to us. And
Mhm.
prioritizing creates a fulfilled life. And guess what? Like if you have a list of the things that are most important to you and you could pick 5, the things that fulfill you, the things that, are in alignment with who you are and how you want to show up.
Mhm.
I mean, think about what those would be. I mean, for some people, that's going to be showing up in their work the way that they want to and being successful. It might be their kids, it might be their spouse, it might be travel, it might be adventure. I don't know what it is for you. Whatever it is that makes you feel fulfilled, I hope that you're on the list. I like hope that taking care of yourself and your physical body and your wellness is on that list of priorities. Because if it's not, you're going to have a difficult time with the other ones. And I think that's another mistake that we make is thinking like, oh, well, I'll just take care of myself later in that season down the road. And really, it has to be on the priority list.
I love that. I don't think people do put themselves on the priority list, which is huge. Um, no, I think that's great. Before I kind of open things up for questions, if that's okay, my
Sure.
other question for you is, so you are the founder of FitMe and
Mhm.
you have a huge emphasis on community. So could you kind of tell us about that company for you and how you developed it and how creating that community is so impactful?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we show up better for others than we show up for ourselves. And when we are connected with other people, whether that's in person, in a gym setting, like the people that you sweat with, they might be the reason you come tomorrow. You're not going to go otherwise, but because they're there and you're going to see them, it helps you show up. I also think community is a safety net that we've deprioritized in our like modern life where, we're supposed to go solo and all these things and just find ourselves, successful. But at the end of the day, humans do well with connection. And so when we built our, when I built Fit Me, it was based off of creating sustainable changes for people, of an effective coaching program, but at the same time tying people to each other. So we give people the opportunity to be leaders, to help each other. And that's built into the program. And so to me, no matter where you are, like here doing this challenge or in your CrossFit gym or in your boot camp class or whatever, just know that the connections that you're making with people are actually really important to creating your healthy lifestyle. And even when you move to a new place or you have a new season of life, don't just seek to create those new habits, seek to create your new community. Like find yourself in a place where you can be surrounded by people who understand, again, who are in alignment with the priorities that are important for you and the
Mhm.
value system that you have, and connect yourself with those people. And so to me, like it was such an important part of transformation for me. That one year that I didn't have the self belief, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't know that I could do it. Community played such an important part of that for me. And now in these different seasons of my life, community still plays a role in me being able to maintain a healthy body weight, feel strong and healthy, all of those things. People make a big difference for me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why it is the way it is.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible. And I think, like you said, it's just incredibly important. And people need that connection no matter what, especially in the world that where everything is so online. definitely need to start connecting more with everyone. Um, Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I would like to open up the floor on Facebook and on Zoom for any questions if anyone has any. If you are on Zoom on camera, if you want to pop your camera off, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question. Facebookers, you can drop it in the comments and I'll be able to see them. But yeah, I'd just like to open that up for any other additional questions someone may have. Let's see what we got going on in this group. Got a lot of comments going on Facebook. I know that. Very good. Okay. Let's see here. And Christy, where can well, let's see. 100%. This is a great community. Oh, cute. Oh, did you write that?
Well, someone had said that they definitely needed a community and that's why they love this. And I was like, this is a great community. You've already put yourself in a position to have that kind of support.
I love it. Where can people reach you the most? Where can people learn more and get more info and just information that you have to offer?
I think that the two places that are probably best to connect with me would be Instagram. So I try to show up on Instagram every day with my real life. And so if you follow me on Instagram, I just put it in the chat. That's a great place. And then I have a short form podcast. It's 10 to 15 minutes. I release it every day. It's called Fit Me Coffee Talk. And it's designed to give you something you can use in your daily life and just help you refocus. You could listen to it in the morning while you're getting ready or you're commuting or whatever. But those are the two places to connect with me.
I love it. Now, for anyone who is with us and listening, is there any last little tidbits, last insight that you would want to leave people with? If there's like one thing that they could take away from all of this or one more piece of information that you would want to share?
I think just, one doable step at a time. Stop. Yeah. Don't feel like the 10 brick people are winning. They're not. And so just keep doing what you can each day and taking one doable step and show up the best that you can for today. That's all you need to do.
Just one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Well, Christy, thank you so much for spending time with us. This is really incredible, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from it. You had a lot of valuable information, and I'm excited to continue learning from you and have others learn from you. So it has really meant a lot that you've been able to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. If anybody has any follow-on questions, they can hit me on Instagram, and I would be happy to answer. So you guys are doing awesome work in your challenge. And so just keep up the good work. Keep going.
Yay. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.